Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fifth
Yeah,
episode of the Unfiltered Feed podcast with me, Yash, and my little brother, Ved. I think it's been a long time since we recorded the last one because of a few important events that were happening at my in my academic career. But now we are all free and here we are. So, Ved, how are you doing? And are you looking forward to today's episode?
First of all, I'm doing really well, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. It's been a long time, not only in the sense that we have recorded in a while, but also that our last episode was a special one. So it's been even longer since we have done an actual news cover up. So it's going to be even more exciting for me to come back to our roots after 1 week of flying in the air.
Yeah, it was quite a funny and it was an eventful episode last time. I really enjoyed. But here we are back discussing a few more updates from the world of sports, technology, and other interesting updates that we have. So let's straight away dive into the main topic. Let's hit the nail on its head. Let's start with cricket and in India versus England. So
Yeah,
I think the last time we were recording, the fifth test, the fourth test was about to start the next day, and now it's done. And it was a really surprising few days, and I couldn't believe when I saw the final result. So that's enough of the spoilers, and I'll now let you take the lead and you can bring it on, whatever you have to say.
yeah. So I'll gladly take the honors. The fourth test, which was in Manchester, I think it was another one of those cliffhangers kind of a game where you thought it was going in one direction, but it just refused to budge. And like always, India were the ones who were really adamant and stubborn in their efforts and really played well. So, if you don't know what happened, let me just give you a quick summary. India batted first. Gill lost the toss yet again. And just on a side note, this was India's 14th consecutive loss of toss.
No.
So the last time they won a toss was in January, which was before the Champions Trophy in a series against England. So since that, they have not won the toss in any international game, which is really surprising. But anyways, Gill lost the toss and England put India to bat, and I think they did decently well. Got to around 350ish, uh, despite a Gill failure. Rahul scored 40, Jaiswal and Sai Sudarshan scored 50s, and Rishabh Pant also scored a 50 while injuring himself, which was really a bit of a bad moment for India, as they will realize in the next test. He's
Yeah.
out of the next test, but he showed immense courage to come out to bat with a broken toe and added 16 valuable runs. They weren't of much value later on, as people realized, but at that moment it was really good to see him. And I think England bowled decently well, and then they batted and scored 669 runs, which was a mammoth lead of 316. And I think at that point, even England would have thought that the game is pretty much sealed. They had around 2 days, and to add to that, they had reduced India to 0 for 2 in the second innings. That too, Chris Wokes, not someone you would expect to run through the top order like that. He got Jaiswal and Sai both for 0, and at that moment, I was convinced that I think it was on the cusp of lunch on day 4, and I was convinced that we lose this even before day 4 ends. So after that, what happened was unbelievable. KL Rahul and Shubman Gill, they batted out of their skins, and I think one of the great partnerships in Indian cricket. I think we look back at it with immense pride if you are an Indian fan, even if you are not. But just as a cricket fan, it was unbelievable to see the patience and the control with which they played. And then
Yeah,
Rahul got out early on day 5 on 90, missed out on 100. And even at that point, the game was very much open. Shubman Gill was batting on around 85, and Washington Sundar walked in a position generally occupied by Rishabh Pant, and Sundar came in and he played really well. And when Gill fell after scoring his fourth hundred for the series, which is I think as many hundreds as a captain already, as what Rohit Sharma got as a captain in his entire career. Shubman Gill got them in his first series, so just Tomna as you call. uh, Jadeja walked in and even he scored 100. So from 0 for 2, India ended at around 410 for 4, and the match was drawn. But of course, nothing can go as smoothly as I had described it. Towards the end, there had to be some controversy, and I think you must have followed up on that at least.
yeah. I did read a few articles and I saw a few reels and tweets about it. But let's come to that a bit later. Let's first discuss about India's performance because I think if you look at the last few years or the last few months at least, this Indian batting hasn't been the best, and they've relied a bit too much on their bowling attack. So I think it was a very important knock from all the batters to show the world that the Indian batting order is still one of the best and they can pull off miracles like this if needed. So, who were you the most impressed with? Because especially in the second innings, there were four really solid innings, but I didn't get to watch any of them ball by ball. But I'm sure you did. So, which innings surprised you the most and which innings impressed you the most?
I think Shubman Gill really stood out for me, even though he had scored a lot of runs in the series. He was still under a bit of pressure because he had missed out thrice in a row with low scores, and as a captain, when you are 0 for 2 and you walk in at that stage trying to save the test match, I think it really was a statemental century from him, and the patience and control with which he played, I think, really impressed me the most. And most surprising was Washington Sundar for a lot of reasons. We have seen him at times throughout his career just getting stuck. He sometimes isn't able to score freely and he just hangs in there with no real purpose. But I think this time he really something changed for him because even earlier in the series I was skeptical about his batting, but he turned out really well in this particular innings and he scored a brilliant 100. Though I think last 20 odd runs were uh, to England's antiques and they lost a bit of charm, but surely it was a memorable innings from him. And of course, Jadeja, you can't not talk about him. He's been really consistent in this series and this year with the bat, and he continued his form. And the only one remaining is, of course, KL Rahul. He missed out on 100 by 10 runs, but he missed out on the appreciation on a larger front. That's what I believe because there were three centurions. No one remembers the one who didn't get the century, but he was equally important. And I am very happy to say this because in the past we have had a few verbal battles, one sided, but still, KL Rahul hasn't always pleased me. But in this series, I would like to take a few steps back and appreciate his class.
Yeah, for the viewers, let me tell you the verbal battles that we had. I would always bring up the emotional side of the things when I would say, "Ki, he plays so well, so much pressure." And then Ved brings all the stats and completely destroys every single point that I made. But it's really nice to hear from him from Ved that he actually enjoyed KL Rao's batting. And I think before the start of this innings, when we were discussing, he told me that Rahul, he usually starts off well, but then he tapers off. But I think in this series, he has proved that he can be consistent and he can bring in match-winning performances throughout the series. So really happy
Yeah,
about that. And now I think let's dive into the England antics. Obviously, I didn't see them live. I did catch a few reels and a few highlights from it. But what exactly happened, and why do you think all of the cricketing community is bashing the England bowlers and the captain?
yeah. So basically, when uh, we had the final drinks break, indicating the final hour of play, Ben Stokes just walked up to the Indians and asked if they could shake hands and just call it a draw. So basically, England gave up, and which is fair. I mean, you have the right to ask that, but then Indians denied that handshake, and even rightly so because Jadeja was on 89, Sundar was on 78, and they deserve to get to their hundreds. So they said no. Until then, everything was fair and nothing was out of place. But then England really were bit, in a way, you can say they got offended by India's denial and decided to take things into their own hands. And Ben Stokes was heard saying to Jadeja that, "Will you get 100 against Brook and Duckett?" So to which Jadeja replied, "What do you want me to do?" Indicating that Ben Stokes is the one choosing the bowlers, and it is Jadeja's duty to just score, which is really fair. And I don't know why Ben Stokes thought of saying that. Uh, and then things went a bit off trail as Crawley, Duckett, Brook, all of them got involved, had a few verbal battles, but India carried on. And I remember Harry Brook came into bowl and he was bowling the most uh, disrespectful full tosses and balls that were flighted very high and just didn't give a good look to the situation and didn't really uh, manage to close out a game that was so competitive, but they couldn't do that. And I think that's why most of the blame went to England because uh, they were right to ask if they can stop the game, but once denied, they have no right to just kind of mock the Indians for something that the English players are doing. You can't get the Indians out, then you have to just shut up and bowl till the Indians agree to stop. You can't go on about how it's unfair. That's what they tried to portray it as, and they tried to portray themselves as victims when there was no business of them being the victims. They just uh, took it a bit overboard with the reactions, and that's what I felt was not right.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also saw a really funny reel uh, by the two Australian cricket YouTubers. I always forget the name for some reason. The Great Cricketer, I'm sorry. We'll try to attach the link to that reel in the description so you can probably take a look. That was really aptly put by them. I think that's
Yeah,
exactly how the game must have been. So, really funny.
yeah. In their words, they went like, "You can't get, we can't get you out, so you should stop playing. What makes you think that you can continue to play when we can't get you out?" That was kind of mindset that England had, which is obnoxious to say the least, and it reeked uh, certain classism, if I had to put it in a bit more broader way. But then all the sympathy that India gained in this incident was let apart by Gautam Gambhir just a couple of days later. Uh, I think you might have heard
Yeah,
that story.
let's get into that a bit later. I had a few more questions about the Ford test. I see the notes for our podcast, and I see that you've written something about Jaiswal's puzzle. I'm not really aware of that, so would you like to share more about that? And then let's also talk about our batting order and the number three problem because we have now replaced the guy with Sai Sudarshan, and he's not looked that good. So let's talk about these two things first.
Yeah. So talking about Yashasvi, I think I just felt that he's no longer the solid force that he was at the start of his career. So uh, have teams finally started to get the hang of his strengths and try and get him out in a way that doesn't affect the team because uh, in this series he hasn't really stepped up. He has scored around 300 or he's not crossed 300 yet, which is worrying when you have players like uh, Jamie Smith, Rishabh Pant, KL Rahul, Jadeja, a lot of players who scored more than 400 and one of the flattest conditions that you'll ever get. And it's a bit worrying, though he plays the new ball, but I really expected him to have a big series. So I think teams have started to figure him out. That's what I feel. Bowling outside off, getting the ball away from him, and we can sense a bit of a weakness in his batting over there. So it'll be interesting to see if this pattern is followed in the longer run or Jaiswal improves his batting and overcomes it because it's important for him. He has a long career ahead and it'll be good if he can rectify his mistakes earlier on.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed as well. I think he also had a quiet home season when we played last time against the likes of New Zealand, and I think before that we had another tour, if I'm not wrong. So he's been a bit off color for sure, but I think this is the right time for him to face these issues because he has the time and the ability to work on it and come back stronger. I'm sure he has the support of all the coaches and also all the former Mumbai cricketers because I think the Mumbai cricket community is very close and
That
they
is
help each
very
other out.
important.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm sure Sachin Tendulkar will first send a message to him to maybe offer a talk and then guide him the way he did for Virat Kohli. So I hope this happens. And what about the number three problem? Do you think
Yeah,
Sudarshan is the right fit, or should we still give Karun Nair one last chance, as he asked cricket once?
yeah, I think that's something I wanted to ask you. If you were the coach, what would you do? And I'll give you a hypothetical situation in which India find themselves right now. Would you uh, give chance to someone who's 22 years old and has a high ceiling, but is not yet there right now or hasn't really proven himself right now? Or would you give that chance to a 35-year-old who has proven it, but uh, in a limit, in a certain limit? He hasn't really shined the way you wanted him to shine. So these are your two options, and you have limited chances because you want to cement that position. So who would you go for at this stage?
I think if I was to pick one of them for the number three spot, I would still go for Karun Nair because I feel he has at least a lot of experience when it comes to domestic cricket. He's also played for India, but I don't think he's played overseas. So this is a bit new for him. But he's at least played in county and he is familiar with the conditions. Especially because it is such an important last test that we have. I think Karun Nair maybe can do a better job than Sai Sudarshan because of the lack of experience that Sudarshan has. But I feel the injury to Rishabh Pant has come at a very right time for both of these guys. Because if I was the head coach, I would actually just replace Rishabh Pant with Karun Nair and let Sudarshan play. I might play Karunar at number three and move Sudarshan down, but I'll still have both of them in the side because they have at least played games for India in this series. So playing them is a better choice than bringing in a new batsman who hasn't played in England much, who hasn't played in this series at all. So I think playing both of these guys will be the better option. And I feel going forward, when it's a series in India, I think Sai Sudarshan is a better option because he obviously has a lot more experience, and I think playing in India is much easier for him as well. He can build his confidence gradually. But I feel for the next test, at least, I would prioritize Karun Nair because of his overall cricketing experience.
Yeah, that is a fair judgment to have. But at the same time, if you put a little bit of context to this, I think Dhruv Jurel would feel hard done if he doesn't get an opportunity in this test, especially when you have given the other two a chance. Who knows? He can also put his name in the hat for the number three spot because he is a quality batter, and I feel he's capable enough to play as a pure batter in this test team if need be. So he will feel hard done if he doesn't get a chance and India go back to Karun Nair. And at the same time, this game will be played at Sai Sudarshan's county home, which is the Kia Oval. So that could be an angle through which the Indian team is looking at this game. So I don't know what will happen, but I think even what you think is not wrong in a way.
Yeah, I'm kind of making this judgment based purely on the fact that this is the fifth test, and I think bringing in Joel right now would be a bit unfair on him as well because he hasn't played a single game. So when you bring him in, and you would obviously expect him to do well, and if he doesn't, then it kind of is a lose-lose situation for both him as well as the team. That's why I would feel Karun Nair bringing him back can be a good option because he has played against this England bowling attack. He has played in these conditions. And then also, if he fails, you can just blame him instead of the coaching staff or anyone else. So he can
Yeah,
be made the victim as well. That's a joke, obviously, but uh,
works both
I would
ways.
have picked Karun Nair for sure.
Yeah, so we'll get to know this soon, very, very soon. I think by the time I upload this in a couple of hours. So,
Yeah,
interesting time. And yeah, I think the other news regarding the fifth test is that Jasprit Bumrah might miss it, uh, as he had already mentioned before the series started that he'll be playing five out of five, three games, and he has played three. Now, it's another thing that his workload is at what stage and how badly was he affected in the last game. He bowled 33 overs, so I think it's a call that the management and he has to take because you can't risk him when you know that he's one injury away from stepping away from the sport, which is really huge.
yeah. I did see a tweet yesterday where a fan was saying that he was requesting Jasprit Bumrah to play this one game and then take a year off. And he said he won't mind because this is probably the most important test that we'll play this year. So I do agree with his sentiment, but I also agree with what you say because you wouldn't want him to play this one game and then not play again for India. I think he should take a break if he's not feeling 100% fit. And to be honest, when he didn't play the second game, India actually won that. So it's not it's not the end of the world for us. The bowling attack is also pretty good. I think
Yeah,
Siraj and Akashdeep, if he's fit, he'll definitely come back. So we have got decent bowlers as well, other than Bumrah.
yeah, and I think Arshdeep might also get a chance,
Yeah,
and that would be interesting. So, not the end of the world if Bumrah doesn't play, but of course, if he plays, it's always a bonus for us.
that's true. The last thing I want to talk about is the bowling because I think in the first innings, how much did we score? something close to 300,
350.
350, and England ended up taking a lead of more than 300. So they scored upwards of 600. So what do you think was the reason for that? Did India bowl poorly? Did England bat really well, or was it a bit of both and the conditions as well?
Yeah, I think majorly it was down to the conditions. They were
Okay.
really flat and easy to play. So India, I feel, underscored when they put up 350. They could have easily added another 100 runs. But surely it was not as bad as 670. Just went to the other end of the spectrum. I think Bumrah was off color, which is very rare to see, but he wasn't at his best and you could see it. He was hesitating to bowl the short length balls, which is a bit worrying, and he wasn't able to bowl the long spells consistently. Like even when he bowled the long spells, he didn't push himself too hard, and you could see it in his body language that he isn't able to give his best. So it makes even more sense for him to take a rest in the fifth test. And you saw without him, the rest of them looked a bit toothless, and there was no real leadership in the bowling attack when Bumrah was down. That's what I felt a bit odd because whenever Bumrah doesn't play, you see Siraj taking responsibility. So I don't understand when Bumrah is playing but not in the groove or is not on a spell. I don't know why Siraj doesn't bowl in the same way uh, in those situations. I think it has got to do something with his mentality or the mindset that he is in when he is a support bowler to Bumrah versus when he is the leader of the attack. So I think he needs to brush that aside, and it doesn't make any sense. When you are a secondary bowler, you bowl and act like one, and when you are the main bowler, you suddenly upgrade yourself. So I hope that doesn't happen too often in the future because other than Siraj, our bowling attack is it's not even worth calling it a bowling attack. It's not even an attack. All defensive bowlers there. Anshul Kamboj playing his first game of the season, and within a couple of spells he was down to 120s, which is diabolical for a 20-25-year-old young big pacer. And then you had Jadeja and Sundar
And
and
obviously,
Shardul.
the Lord.
Yeah, this it's better if you don't talk about him because in an innings where the bowlers bowled for 157 overs, he just got 11 overs, which is, yeah, I think even someone like a Reddy would have bowled twice as much as him. So I don't know what's with the trust issues there. I think Sundar held one end very well whenever he got a chance, but other than that, it's got to do something with the personnel because you can't just keep blaming the conditions when you are not able to produce one attacking bowler in your squad. Prasid Krishna, whenever he tried to attack, the batters attacked him. So that was a utter failure, and he was dropped after two tests.
Yeah.
And by the end of the series, you are almost forced to go back to someone who you discarded a couple of tests ago, which shows how bleak our options are looking. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. But I think India is also facing a lot of injury crisis, as we mentioned in the last podcast. I'm pretty sure once the likes of Reddy, Akashdeep, Arshdeep are fit, they'll straight away come back into the side, and the likes of Shardul, maybe even Anshul Kamboj will have to sit out. So I think that's a nice segue into the fifth test, which is starting tomorrow. But I think when we upload the podcast, it will either be already on or start soon. So let's talk about the squad first. What changes would you make to the side? And what are the forced changes that India has to make now?
The only force change I can see is Rishabh Pant missing, and if Bumrah decides to rest, then even he will go out. I think
Hmm.
Rishabh Pant, uh, my mind says that Jurel will replace him, but inside I know that they could have a different plan and maybe go with Karun Nair, as you mentioned, and get
Hmm.
Rahul to keep. So that could be an option. And talking about Bumrah's replacement, I think Gambhir did mention in the press conference that all the fast bowlers are now fit. So Akashdeep, Arshdeep are back. So one of them could fit in. And if they want to rest Siraj, I don't know why that isn't being talked about, because even he's played all 4 games
Yeah.
and even he has to be managed. You can't let him bowl like a horse and manage Bumrah, because eventually even he will break down. So
Yeah.
if I was the management, I would really consider giving Siraj some rest as well and bring in both Arshdeep and Prasid.
But would you drop Siraj or like give him rest when there's no Bumrah as well? Because this is such an important test, and we've seen what England can do. So without Bumrah and Siraj, I think this Indian bowling attack will be absolutely toothless. So I would rather make him play this game, but then give him a rest maybe for the next series or so. But what's your take on this? Is it worth dropping him?
Yeah, that's a good point, but I think it's better to bring in fresh legs rather than have Siraj just for the sake of being the leader. But if he's not really fit or if he's not at his best, then there's no point in continuing with him, because you could see in the last test as well, he was a bit tired, looked like a shadow of himself in just a couple of spells, and it's been a short turnaround, just 3 days of break. So
Hmm.
I think they didn't manage him well on this tour. They could have given him a break in one of the previous 2 games where Bumrah played, both of them. I don't think they should have pushed Siraj so that he could be fresh when Bumrah rests. They just went all in, and now they have a problem where both of them need rest, but that would make the bowling significantly weaker. So they are in a bit of a mess. I don't know how they'll handle it, but from what I've seen in the past, they'll just push Siraj through with it, and he will bowl a couple of spells and look off, and it won't go to plan. That's how most of the times it happens. So I'll be interested to see what they do.
Yeah. I also think even in the fourth test, India were kind of, let's say, impacted by the injury crisis. Because I think the plan was to rest Bumrah for the fourth test and bring him back for the fifth test. And then maybe they could have rested Siraj for the fifth test. But because of so many injuries, they had to play Bumrah and
Yeah,
Siraj as well. And now, as you said, it's a bit of a weird situation. But as you said, I think Siraj himself would like to play this fifth test. As much as I know him, he's a very passionate character. So he would want to play, he would want to do well and at least draw the series now that we can't win it. But even if we can draw it, it would be a big achievement.
yeah,
So now let's move to the next and the most important news from this fifth test, which is about Gautam Gambhir and his argument with the groundsman at Oval. So what exactly happened? I did read about this and I saw that Gambhir told him that you're just a groundsman, so you do your job and don't tell us what to do. But do you know what actually happened and what led to this fight between the two?
yeah. So I did follow this news quite a bit. Uh, couldn't resist myself. So what happened was that the Oval curator, I think his name is Lee, Mr. Lee. So he came in when the Indians were practicing, and he came and told Gambhir, or before that, he screamed at one of the Indian staff because they brought an ice box near the pitch, not on the pitch, but close to the pitch. So Mr. Lee just assumed that he was going to keep it on the pitch. So he just went and screamed at him in a tone that was not appropriate, and that's what Gambhir saw, and they had a bit of a normal verbal uh, crossover,
The
whatever,
exchange. Yeah.
yeah, verbal exchange, and it quickly turned into a bit of a dramatic conversation, and you could hear them swearing at each other. And Gambhir finally said, "You're just a groundsman." And I think whatever happened, even if Mr. Lee was to be blamed, I don't think that is the way you're supposed to speak. Calling him just a groundsman and just belittling him when you yourself a couple of days ago in the press conference came out and said that we are fighting for the common man back in India, which is in its own really funny, but then you just it doesn't give a good impression. You're the coach of the Indian cricket team and you speak in that way to a groundsman. So that was really disappointing to see. Sitanshu Kotak, a batting coach, did come out and speak in Gambhir's defense. He said that this groundsman has given problems to the Indian women's team in the past as well, and uh, he just assumed that we will walk on the pitch with spikes when we were not planning to do that, and he spoke in a very uh, inappropriate tone, and that's why Gambhir got a bit angry. So that's what Sitanshu had to say. So that's what the situation was, and I think what really, if Gambhir had not used those words, it wasn't that big of a deal for him because it was obvious that Mr. Lee was to blame as well because you had Baz McCallum and Ben Stokes walking on the pitch and without any problems. And when the Indians were just close by, not even on the pitch, and that's when Mr. Lee had a problem. So it was wrong in his part, but his mistake was completely overshadowed by what Gambhir did out there.
But I do agree with Gambhir because he is actually just a groundsman, so he has to be respectful because it's the Indian national team. It's not a county team that is playing over there, so you have to respect them. And I feel kind of good for Lee that Virat Kohli wasn't playing this series because I only imagine what would have happened if Virat Kohli was even nearby the ground. And if he had seen this, he would have absolutely destroyed Mr. Lee and made sure that
If
he
only.
was at least made sure that he would have, been dealt with by the management and given some treatment, a special treatment from the management. But anyways, I think that's everything that we had to speak about the fifth test and the India versus England series. I think before wrapping up, what's your prediction? What do you think will happen? And do you think India will win the test, or will it be an England domination, or will we see a draw again?
I think from the English team that was announced, I think we didn't mention that. England made 4 changes to their team, and there's no Ben Stokes, and there's no
Oh,
Archer, and so they're playing Ollie Pope as the captain, and they have got a completely fresh bowling attack. Josh Tongue is back, Gus Atkinson is playing, and Jamie Overton is playing. So it's a very mediocre looking bowling attack. So I wouldn't rule out an Indian win, but as they say, as they have been saying, you need 20 wickets to win a test match. So I'm not sure of that, and that's why I would still put an England win as the more likelier outcome.
oh, this was actually news to me that Ben Stokes wasn't playing. But I think I kind of agree with you because their batting order is not changing much, and that's been the main issue for us. So I think it will be an England win or a draw, but I think expecting a victory for India seems a bit tough unless we bat first and score 500 or 600 runs.
Yeah, we have a very good chance, but I'm not sure if we will grab the opportunity. Uh, Looking at our bowling, especially
Yeah,
because our batting will handle itself, and even their bowling is very weak. But the main battle is our bowling versus their batting, and I think that will decide the game.
correct. So now let's move away from this series. We are still not switching sports
40
because we do
minutes
have
of being stuck in this series.
we do have one more update to share about cricket, and this is the Asia Cup, which is happening finally. There were a lot of rumors that it was going to get cancelled, but no, it's going ahead in the UAE this time, once again actually. And Ved has a few strong words for the BCCI as well as for the Asian Cricket Council because, as expected, India and Pakistan are back in the same group. They are going to play in the group stage, and most likely they'll also play two more times or one more time at least in the playoffs. So, Ved, you can rant about it, but then let's also talk about the schedule and the expansion to 8 teams now.
Yeah, so let me do away with the good thing first so that I can get on to my disappointment. I think it's a good step that they've expanded the tournament to 8 teams because for a long time you had just a 6 team Asia Cup, and which is very bad in its own way when there are so many competitive teams and just one of Nepal, Hong Kong, UAE, Oman, just one of them getting qualified every time to play with the big boys was very bad. I would have still further expanded it to 10 teams because that's how you will give exposure to the others. But this is the first step in the right direction. So you have got UAE and Oman as the other two, and I think even Nepal. So those are the three, and uh, that's where the good part ends. To be honest, very small, and coming to the real deal, which is India and
Oh,
Pakistan.
can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
Can you quickly explain to me the format? How is the group stage and the playoffs going to be held this time?
yeah. So the format is same. You've got two groups of 4 teams each, and the top two will qualify from each group, and then you have super fours. So there's a round
Okay,
robin over there, and the top two play the final. I think that's how it goes.
okay.
Uh,
Thank you. And it's
yeah, so
playing in Dubai again. So with that, you can now kick off.
yeah, T20s in Dubai. So it's a nostalgic moment for me. Anyways, India and Pakistan. That's all the hype, and that is where most of the eyes are, and those eyes are rightly over there because of what happened. But basically, the meeting happened, and BCCI agreed to go forward with the Asia Cup in UAE and also play Pakistan, which is very weird because we just had a Legends League, though it is a league with much less at stake and financially doesn't matter kind of a league, but still you made the Indian team boycott that game. The fans made them do that, and also a couple of months ago when Neeraj Chopra had his own event in Bengaluru, the invites for which were sent about 6 months back or 6 months before the event, so well before the entire situation escalated. We won't go into that, but still, uh, and you had uh, government officials and all the big dignitaries and whatnot, all of them crying and kind of taking a dig at Neeraj Chopra for inviting Arshad Nadeem to that event. and so much so that Neeraj Chopra had to kind of back off. And even though he wasn't doing anything wrong, it was his personal event, and he had sent the invites way back. He didn't even expect anything of this sort to happen. So why would he not invite the second best javelin player and the Olympic gold medalist? So it didn't make sense that time. And now it's just uh, now that the cricket is involved, and it's the BCCI that we're talking about, not easy targets, and very difficult to portray them as villains for some reason. You don't see any direct outrage at those who accepted this game. Instead, the outrage will, I'm sure, will be diverted to the players yet again for no mistake of theirs. Because the BCCI agreed, because the government gave clearance, only then the players will be playing. They're not playing on their own will. So, but they are the ones who are seen on the TV, and the common man will just think that it's them to be put to blame, which is very sad for me as a Indian cricket fan. And what makes this even worse is they could have uh, just agreed that if they play in the final, then we'll see, or something like that. But no, they have put India and Pakistan in the same group and with UAE and Oman. So they obviously planned all this so that they get to maximize India versus Pakistan matches, which is really shameful if that's what they planned, because you have Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan in the other group, as always. And all you had to do was just put one of those three with Pakistan, and everything was sorted. Then you just had to play them once or twice, and that too because it was a knockout game. So it would have been much easier to handle, but I think that's not what they want. They all they want is money. And one last thing I would like to add is the common man, or the people who are so in a way brainwashed, or I don't know what to say, where they feel that this is a master stroke by BCCI, and they'll cancel, or they'll pull themselves out at the very last moment to put monetary loss to PCB, which is utter nonsense. And I don't know how this was spread around in the media or within the public, because BCCI are the ones hosting this tournament in UAE, and it was supposed to be held in India, but PCB didn't agree to come to India, as you remember from previous times where BCCI used to pull out. That's when PCB said that next time you host, we will pull out, and this is a consequence of that. So BCCI are going to bear all the monetary losses, if any, and even the broadcaster, which is Sony, is an Indian broadcaster. So I don't get it how people were fooled, but I've seen that, and I've seen people that I personally know as saying such stuff, which is even worse. And I just don't know how deep are we in this problematic situation, where the common man doesn't know whose fault it is, and the blame will go somewhere else. And at the end, in a couple of months' time, people will forget and just move on.
I hope that reference wasn't towards me because I think a couple of couple of days ago I did bring this up, but I had a slightly different opinion. What I thought initially was that BCCI they have agreed. I mean, I'm of course sure that the ACC proposes the schedule, and then the BCCI agrees to it. So what I thought initially was that BCCI agreed to it, and then once it was time to play, they would say, no, we won't play because of our national interest, and we give 2 points to Pakistan, and that would have made them look really good and would have put BCCI in a really good and positive light for all the fans. But then it doesn't make sense because if you didn't want to play Pakistan, why would you have them in the same group? You obviously have a really easy option, as you said, to just swap them with one of Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, or Bangladesh. So my theory kind of falls apart when this happened, but this can be a possibility. They may just back out at the end, but I'm not sure if that will be a part of their plan or because the fans force them to do it. But I hope the fans can show and share their voice and come together and help or make boycotting this game possible because I don't think this game should go ahead. It's not fair.
Yeah, and what's even worse is that what will probably happen is they will wait and just try and take a overview of the situation
Yeah,
if the people are really boycotting or if the people are really upset, and only then they will decide, which is very bad because if there is not enough of a voice being raised, then they will just take that as a green signal and play the game, which is morally very sad to see that money comes first for them when it's about cricket, but then they are the same people who want other activities from Pakistan to be banned. So that's how it works, I guess.
yeah, it's a very weird situation. Let's also quickly discuss about the venue. Is this happening only in Dubai or will it happen across the three stadiums in Abu Dhabi and Sharjah as well?
Yeah, so the good thing is we have the Asia Cup in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Last
Okay.
time it was in Dubai and Sharjah, but Abu Dhabi missed out. I think this time Abu Dhabi is in, Sharjah will miss out, but I won't miss Sharjah because honestly I don't like it. Abu Dhabi is a much better venue, and so I think that is one good thing. Even the dew is not that big of a factor in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. And obviously, as we said, T20 cricket in UAE hasn't been the best in the past, but I feel that was also because of a few other reasons. Specifically, we are referring to the 2021 T20 World Cup. But I think a big factor was that the IPL had taken place right before it, so the pitches were already kind of tired and worn out. But now I think they'll be fresh, so we should expect some good cricket. Plus, with all these new teams coming up, uh, Oman and India are going to play a game. It's very exciting for us. I think,
That
is it
was
the first time that they're playing?
yeah.
And it was my dream to watch Oman and India play, and I would tell my friends that I'm supporting both the teams. So that's finally a reality. So, one quick question for you. Who do you think will qualify? Will it be the same four, or do you think one of these new teams can upset? Having said that, it's a T20, so there's a lot of chance for them to play well and defeat maybe someone like a Bangladesh or an Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think from Group A, it's very obvious India and Pakistan. I don't think UAE and Oman really stand a chance. UAE might push one of the teams close, but not so much that they'll defeat them and qualify ahead of them. Group B as well, you've got Pakistan, you've got Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Nepal. I think I think it will be from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan to qualify. My gut says Sri Lanka and Afghanistan because Sri Lanka have been in a very good rhythm of late, and they found some stability in the personnel under Sanat Jayasuriya's uh, coaching. I think they found a template, and Bangladesh they have lost a T20 series to UAE earlier this year, so they are down in the doldrums. So I think that is my prediction.
Okay, and do you feel India is still going to win the Asia Cup? Because I think we have got by far the best squad out of all these teams.
Yeah, I think we are on a different league, and the only thing that can stop us is not any particular team, but the conditions.
Mm.
If we are not lucky enough, I think we are so good that even the conditions won't really matter that much. I would be genuinely surprised if we don't win the Asia Cup. That too, what is that called? Win without dropping any points.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
And I also have a very surprising, not actually surprising, but a bold prediction. I think India is going to break their all-time T20 score in this Asia Cup against, I hope it's not against Oman, but maybe against UAE. India is going to go berserk. We might see an Abhishek Sharma special, and then we have got the likes of Sanju Samson, Tilak Verma, Hardik Pandya, Surya Kumar Yadav. All these guys are going to have fun. So I think I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably watch a few games, and yeah, I'm excited for this T20 knockout super smash exciting tournament.
Yeah, and I think one other prediction I would like to make is that I genuinely feel Afghanistan will be the finalists,
Hmm.
and we might have an India-Afghanistan final. Just the way they have been playing, I won't be surprised if that happens. But India will win.
Yep. So the hype has been built. We'll obviously discuss more about this as the tournament kicks off, and uh, we'll have a lot to share. I think by then you will not be in Oman. You'll have moved to your place of university. We have not disclosed it yet. We'll do it in due course of time. But I think that's everything we have for cricket. Um, or yeah, I think that's everything that we have. I think we can dive quickly into F1. Not a lot to
Hmm.
share, but do you have any specific questions this time?
Yeah, so it was in, I think, what we discussed off air, it was one of the more boring races, according to you. So, uh, just give us an overview of what happened and what were the three more interesting things that happened.
Yeah, sure. I can take you over the weekend quickly. This was a sprint weekend, so it's usually a bit more eventful. And to be honest, the races were very boring, but the qualifying sessions were pretty interesting. In both qualifying sessions, though, Lewis Hamilton got knocked out in Q1, and in both sessions, it was sort of his mistake. In the sprint qualifying Q1 session, he spun at the last corner and he couldn't complete his lap. And then for the main qualifying in Q1, he kind of broke the track limits and his lap time got deleted. And he made a mistake at a very easy corner, or not an easy, but nobody usually makes a mistake there. And he kind of maybe lost his concentration or had a distraction. I don't know what happened. But McLaren, they were by far the quickest team. Norris was on pole for the main race, and Piastri was on pole for the sprint. And the races, I feel, were very boring. There was not a lot of overtaking, partly because of the track. This is a low downforce track, which means the teams they have really skinny rear wings, which means that the DRS does not have a lot of impact, and the teams don't really gain a lot of speed, or the cars don't gain a lot of speed when they open the DRS. So it's not enough for them to overtake the car ahead of them. So they get stuck in these chains of car, which is known as a DRS train, where you have four, five, six, seven cars right behind each other within a second, but nobody can overtake each other, and they just keep following each other for the entire race. And that's exactly what happened in the sprint. I think there was just one overtake, or not even that. Max Verstappen, he led. I think he overtook Piastri on lap one, and then he led the entire race. And Piastri and Norris, both of them were right within 1 second of Max, but they couldn't overtake him. So they just ended the race in that order. And for the main race, it was raining right before the race began. So they had to red flag the race and wait for about 60, 70 minutes for the rain to calm down. And then the race began behind a safety car. So we didn't even have a standing start. And right into turn one, Lando Norris, as usual, bottled, let Piastri overtake him, and then Piastri won comfortably by 5 seconds. And again, behind both of them, it was a DRS strain because Leclerc was able to defend Verstappen for the entire race. Lewis Hamilton, even though he started in P18, he did uh, climb up to P7, I think by the first 10, 15 laps. But after that, he got stuck behind the Williams of Alex Albon and again couldn't overtake. So he spent almost 40 laps or 30 laps behind him within 1 second, but couldn't do anything. So it was very frustrating watch. I kind of sacrificed my sleep. I slept only for 4 hours because of this. But I think I made a wrong decision. I should have slept and then watched the highlights of this race. It would have been as eventful as the real race. But now what's happened is the gap between Piastri and Norris has increased to 16 points from 8 points. So Piastri now has a bit more margin to play with, and I think he's going to win the championship. That's what I've been saying for the entire season. This week we have a race at Hungary, and this is going to be the last race before the summer break, which will be for 3 weeks. For me, it works out because my exams start on August 5th, so I get to watch one last race and then lock in for my exams. So, yeah, that's everything that I had to share.
Yeah, it was interesting. The way you spoke, I don't think it was that enthralling of a race because I've seen you speak with more enthusiasm when the races were a bit more close. So I just wanted to ask a general F1 question here. Uh, I think sprint races have been there for what 3 or 4 seasons now.
Yeah.
So I've rarely heard that sprint races have been very interesting or uh, consequential or any sort of entertaining racing happening in the sprint races. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So, do you think that when next year there will be regulation changes, do you think F1 should, firstly, should F1 make a few changes to the sprint uh, race format or the consequences of it, the positions in which they start for the main race or whatever, should they change it? And secondly, are there any chances of the changes happening or they're too stuck into the system for a longer time?
Yeah, I think the opinion that you have about sprint races is kind of true because since they were introduced in 2021, for the first 2 years, the format was that you would have a main qualifying, which would set the grid for the sprint race, and the sprint race finishing order would set the grid for the main race.
Hmm.
But what that did was teams didn't have a lot of incentive to go for overtakes or go for risky moves because if they went for it and they made a mistake and they crashed, it would affect the starting grid for the main race. And most teams, they kind of prioritize the main race because that's where you get all the points. They changed this last year or the year before, where they introduced a separate qualifying session for the sprint and the main race to kind of incentivize teams to take more risks. But the second issue that this created was that the sprint race was sort of a trailer for the main race. And since the cars were not allowed to be changed or modified between the two races, you would kind of already get an idea into what the main race would look like. And that again spoiled the fun. But then this year, or last year, if I'm not wrong, in 2024, they changed the format again, where they allowed the teams to change or modify the car after the sprint race. So what this did is teams would learn about the car and setup that they have in the sprint, and if something didn't work well, they could make changes for the actual qualifying and the main race. So that brought a bit more intrigue. So I think with that, the format is now really good. I don't think they can improve much. There are obviously a few suggestions to have reverse grids and all of that, but I don't think that merits a lot because F1 at the end is a sport that rewards the fastest cars and drivers. So you can't really flip the grid because then teams will obviously try to go slower and try to qualify lower, and then it just becomes a big mess. So I think I'm happy with the format. What I only would like to change is to have sprints at better tracks because a track like Spa, for example, is not right for a sprint race because the lap is so long and again you can't overtake. So the sprint race becomes quite boring and kind of dull. Instead of this, they could have had a sprint race at Austria, which is a track where overtakes tend to happen, and it's a short track as well. So the sprint race can be a bit longer. You might even add a pit stop to it if you want. So they should be a bit more mindful of choosing the right track for the sprint. But I think the format itself is now pretty good. I don't think they can improve it much.
That's an interesting opinion because you're right. There aren't many ways to make it better than the current one. So, and I don't think it is. Uh, there's an option to completely do away with the sprinters because it adds a bit of a dimension, at least, if not the racing part, but at least there's something to look forward to on the sprint weekends as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was an interesting insight.
All right. I think that's it from F1 as well. Nothing much to say.
I don't think there's much to say for the tech part as well. I did add a few headlines there, but uh, I'm not sure if it's worth it.
And I also feel Ved is now tired because I saw him do this, which means let's finish this off. As you said, yeah, there's nothing much in tech. I think Techtober or Techtember is about to start, so you'll have a lot of launch events, new phones that come up. So I think we'll save it for that. But yeah, I think we have covered everything that we had to for this podcast.
Yeah, we're back to our standard template, and it was very good. Hopefully, we can be a bit more consistent with these episodes. We have launched them weekly, but the gaps have been a bit inconsistent, so we'll try and work on that.
Yeah. So with that, what are the two things that you look forward to in this upcoming week? Obviously, India, England, but apart from that.
Yeah, the cricket will go on. I think I have my visa interview, which I'm really looking forward to. Uh, and other than that, just enjoying my few days in this country of Oman. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What about you?
I have three exams coming up in the next week, so I think I have a few more assignments due tomorrow, and after that I can switch my focus towards the exams. And after that, I'm excited to meet you and Ai Baba as well because we'll get the chance to do that. So very happy and can't wait to see all of you in person.
Yeah, another 17 to 18 days left.
Yeah.
So we'll be uploading consistently even during our times of adventure around the world.
You might
So
get
you,
an episode where both of us are in person and we can
yeah,
record a podcast together. That would be great.
yeah, that is one of our ones on the bucket list that we'll tick off somewhere in the next month.
So with that, I think we can end this podcast, episode 5. We are starting to become a regular now. Um, as usual for the viewers, if you like the podcast, you can obviously like it and share your opinions in the comment section. We do read all the handful of comments that we get, but I'm sure it will grow eventually. And Ved will, as usual, upload it maybe tomorrow, and we'll keep updating our shorts with clips from this podcast. I think that's very popular, so we'll do that as well.
Yeah, and please give us your feedback. Every small feedback is taken very seriously here at the Unfiltered Feed podcast. As you can see, this is the a consequence of the feedback that I got. Though it came from my own family, but still it's a feedback and we have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
So that's all from my mouth for this week. And until next time, this is Ved signing off.
Bye bye. See you.
Yeah.